So boom, so you guys are Spartan, and by default, it sounded like everybody in that community kind of took some of that cross movement methodology,
absolutely,
in terms of being very Christocentric, and applied it to what you guys were doing. But you guys were different aesthetically. It was wider. It was more commercial.
I was even different aesthetically from them. So most of those guys were influenced at that time by like Little John, and then that kind of mutated to like Lil Wayne. But I've always kind of been influenced by like Midwest soul, East Coast, a little bit of West Coast. And so even though I was a part of a label that was very South-centric, I kind of was the black sheep.
Well, the cool part was, that's one way to look at it, but you were always kind of like your own person.
Right. And I didn't feel like I was a black sheep. I'm not saying I felt like a black sheep. I'm just saying like sonically, like there would be, so that's probably why What Up RG made that statement. He's like, oh yeah, I kind of listened to him, because there were some folks who like, I love Lecrae Trip Tadashi. I don't know what this other dude, the Sho Baraka, what's his name? I don't like that kind of sound.
Yeah.
And it's, so you can kind of tell sometimes.
It's around the time of Barack Obama was.
Yeah, right. Folks would be like, yo, you named after Barack. Why would you do that to yourself? I'm like, no.
Why would you do that?
That's my name, sucker.
So some of them adopt that methodology.
We all adopted that.
You guys all adopted that. Okay, so then in the process, you and Lecrae, but I remember you and Prop started building a friendship.
Prop and
you and Official became friends, and then we started having these hard conversations of like, do you need to explicitly preach the gospel? Do you like, what about boasting in raps, and is that okay? And we would have these conversations. This is like 2008 to 2010, and I remember you hopped on like a Breaks record, and
a Body Jaw,
Brilliant Realness. You shot the video, like it was dope, and that was like a big deal. Like people were like, a 116er hopped on a record with the Breaks.
Yeah, that was.
Oh my god, that was like a big deal.
It was. A lot of folks that I did. There was some people that I had features with. It was a big deal, but I do remember that being a big deal. Because you were quite controversial. Cause I remember.
I don't know why though. Like in hindsight, like we just weren't saying Jesus every verse. Like that was the only. We literally were doing what everybody is doing now.
The stuff that
the content wise.
The content now. Think about the content people were going crazy over in that time compared to now. Like this tame. Like it is extremely tame. But yeah, I think that album was fresh. I remember doing that.
Thank you for doing that.
I didn't shoot that video actually.
No, yes. Well, you didn't shoot the video. You were in the video.
Oh, okay.
Like you showed up to do the video. You didn't just do a verse.
Right.
Like you actually were a part of helping us promote it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Prop, but you know what's funny though? Yeah, because Prop was the one who also, I think Prop knew you as well.
Yeah. Me and Prop knew each other.
Right. Yeah. And so Prop used to kind of like talk to me about you and the Breaks, and like Glenn and the rest of y'all. And I just knew, because it was funny. The first time I met Prop and Thomas, right, we were at a conference called Legacy in Chicago, and it was, you can just feel this tension, right? So you had the 116 clique. We were at a restaurant called MacArthur's, and we were sitting at these tables, right? You had this 116 clique at a table, and then you had like you had like Prop and these the liberal Christian, like the tunnel rat. Like disciples, and you can kind of just feel like we just weren't messing with each other. We just kind of like, yo, that's the y'all the liberals, y'all the conservative. And then Prop and I had a conversation, and we both found out we were from like Southern California, Covina. We just like, what? Yeah. And we just got to talking, and that was it. Like the whole weekend, we just we hit it off, and from there. That was one of the subtle nuances that really started to change my paradigm. It's like, yo, these dudes ain't whack. Like whack in the mind, like whack in their thinking. Like they're definitely talented, but these guys love Jesus, but they just express it differently. And yeah, and so the I would say the Reformed movement kind of had an impact on pretty much all of us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, absolutely.
That slant of theology, which as we talked more, I think it was like, oh, we all kind of lean that way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I definitely will say that at that part of that time of my life, I mean, it was what it was. Yeah. So then you get ready and you put out Lions and Liars. Yeah. And all of a sudden that record was the first release that we heard, or that I heard from Reach, really like the first like mainstream, if that sounds
I know what you mean, though.
You know what I'm saying? Like the first like major Christian hip hop release that was touching on social issues and wasn't overtly Christian and was very musically progressive. Like it wasn't just trap, you know, whatever, like 808s.
That sound was,
that was a different sound. How was the process of putting that record out? Because that was mad different than anything else that had came out, but you were so like, this is coming out. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so actually there was a process before that. After Turn My Life Up, which 2007 I think it was, I done a mixtape, you know, because it was this. I was kind of frustrated.
You had that the Ballin' joint.
Yeah. So I was like, man, I'm kind of frustrated that I feel like we can't. I was a very personality driven individual, and I would do these videos for YouTube with this character called Be Scientific, and I would just act a fool, and folks were like, yo, man, you funny, bro, like you should be doing more videos. And I was like, man, I feel like I can't be this person in our lane. Yeah,
you couldn't be funny.
You couldn't. You had to be serious. I have to be.
It was such a weird thing in hindsight, bro. Like how.
Yes.
Like it was weird. And so bro.
The other thing is like there weren't a lot of Christian cats doing mixtapes on our side of the you know the yard, if you will. And so I did this mixtape, and it was called Why So Serious. And I just took a whole bunch of beats from folks, and I was just rapping on it. And a couple of those songs, I was just spitting. Some of them I was just rapping, right? And I was just like, I want to just show these jokers I can rap. And there was one song where K-Drama did the Air Jordan on them. I took a remix, made Kobe Bryant on them. And at that point, folks was like, yo, I think his dude's pretty nice. So then from there, I was like, I think I have the freedom to be who I am.
Yeah.
So that was the impetus for Lions and Liars. And that, for me, I remember DJ, since we're talking about DJ Wade, I remember having a conversation with DJ Wado. And to also regress a little bit, part of the reason why it took so long to sign a deal with Reach and to commit to making Christian music was I just knew the kind of person I was. Just a little context, my mom was a Black Panther. I grew up in a very socially conscious household. I knew that there was this part of me that was just unfulfilled in the kind of work, the kind of circles and places that I was operating and moving in.
In the sense of the Christian audience.
Right.
The white
evangelical spaces, right.
Yeah.
And so at one point, I remember right before Lions and Liars released, and while I was working, I was talking to DJ Wade. I was like, yo, man, I think I said some tense amount of, if this album doesn't create the kind of impact that I want, I think I'm done. I think I'm just done with Christian hip hop because I just don't know if I'm enjoying all of this.
I remember you expressing that to me.
Yeah.
Like, I go and do these shows, and I don't see anybody that looks like me in the audience. And I was like, that's heavy. You know what I'm saying? That's really heavy.
And that's my responsibility as an artist because you make the music that reflects you, right? And so, but I think what happened was the precedent that is created by the industry, Christian hip hop industry or Christian music market, it incentivizes people to get to festivals, and it incentivizes people to be, you know, commissioned by youth groups and churches. And usually the people who pay for those are like predominantly white churches. Now you have Black churches who do it, but they usually get gospel artists, like, you know.
Let me ask you a question.
All right.
I think this is what I think.
All right.
I think Christian hip hop, specifically that window of time, not any one person, but as a whole, like the zeitgeist, like the mentality.
Yeah.
I think we played ourselves by not pressing more into the Black gospel space and going into the CCM space. I
agree with you so much.
And I remember getting around, I don't remember if it was you or somebody, like, I remember talking to, I feel like me and you had a conversation about Black gospel music.
We probably did.
Like,
we talked a lot,
I love Fred Hammond, and I'm sitting there playing you Fred Hammond records, and you're like,
I was probably confused. I was like looking at this Armenian cat.
Like, in that world. Like, that is like what I was listening to. That's how I loved Black gospel music. And it was this, I don't know if you said it, but there was definitely this like, yeah, but we don't know about his theology. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the temperament.
I probably said some stupid like that.
and in hindsight, I feel like we were at this crossroads that like, boom, you guys are opening up for Kirk. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're at this crossroads that, like, Fred Hammond was in Dallas, where we could have went black gospel market and just pressed into that world, which down the road the socially conscious message would have been embraced, but instead the bag came from the CCM, Reformed and Restless, and we went left when we could have went right. And maybe Christian hip hop wouldn't have gotten us big, but at least I feel like there would have been more, maybe not freedom, but acceptance.
And I'm gonna tell you what else there would have been. So, dang, I hate that I'm doing this because, all right, so just a little. I'm writing a book. Okay. And this is going to be a chapter in the book. Okay. And exactly what we're talking about. And I'm just going to I'm not going to spill the thesis too much.
So exclusive.
Not only
Sho
that,
Baraka.
so not only would we have been, I'll push back a little bit. I don't, black churches, though they're more inept in the social justice conversation, they're not fully evolved into, to wholly embracing it. There's some issues at the black church as well.
Embracing social justice or embracing hip hop?
No, well, both. Embracing hip hop, also embracing justice in the way that I think that a lot of the conversation is being had today. Okay, right. Fair enough. Because they're fairly still conservative. Most of your black churches are still fairly conservative. There's a lot that, depending on, this is the thing about black churches. I think we often have them. We look as a monolith. There are different types of black churches.
Yeah, you're right.
So
that was very broad strokes, macro observation. You're totally right.
There are a lot of black churches that are extremely conservative. And so they'll definitely talk about abortion, right? They're like, yeah, we're concerned about the whole woman. Like, we're anti-abortion, but we also want health care. Yeah. They're definitely anti-police brutality. But there are also some things, for instance, I spoke at a church about reparations, and the pastor pushed back on me on stage. We were having this back and forth about the idea of restitution and what does restitution mean, right? And he was like, nah, because all these black folks out here, all they're going to do is just buy Jordans. And I was like, word, son? That's... Word. Wow. So anyway, there are some issues that they overcome. However, so just to go to this point that I not only do I think we would have kind of had a different I can't remember what you said there.
Different trajectory.
A different trajectory. Yeah. We would have also had a better opportunity to own our institution. And the reason why we don't own anything now is because everything operates within the Christian music market, the CCM market. So we don't have touring. We don't own distribution. We don't have, publicists, right? We don't, but guess what? Guess who does have all those things? Gospel music. Gospel music has their own radio stations. They have their own distro. They have everything.
That's a fact.
And so this is some of the stuff I'm gonna be writing about in my book. So don't be stealing my stuff.
Wait. I can't keep you in check, so tell your mama about the tattoos up to your neck. Or wear a collar if it goes with the burgundy kids. And tell your father that your night out wasn't the best from what I see via text. I can't keep you in check, so tell your mama about the tattoos up to your neck.